Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ann Sullivan. I'm an undergraduate academic advisor with the University of Houston College of Architecture and Design. I want to thank you for being with us today here for our first ever virtual Cougar preview. It's exciting times, and we're excited to share some information about the college, our majors. I also have two of our current students here with me, two of our student ambassadors who I'll introduce once we get to our Q&A portion of the event. So we don't have a ton of time, so I'm going to get through my slides, and then we'll get to a little bit of Q&A at the end of the event. So without further ado, here we go. So a few important numbers to know about the College of Architecture and Design located here in Houston. So number 31 out of the top 40 undergraduate architecture programs in the United States. Founded in 1945, 946 students, comprising one of the most diverse architecture schools in the United States. And we definitely benefit from our location in that regard. Houston is a very diverse city. In the top 7% of 508 architecture schools in the US, according to Architecture College's rankings, and number 6 out of the top 10 industrial design programs in the US, and number 14 in the world. 30 years as a leader in design build education, and number 14 of the top 20 most hired from architecture schools. So if you're a numbers person, screenshot that, get that there. All right, next up, let's talk about those majors. So I already mentioned a few of them, and I will break them down for you now. So our flagship major is architecture, and we offer a 5-year degree plan from the time of admission to completion. So it's a 10 design studio sequence, and definitely the largest of our majors. The Bachelor's of Architecture is also a professional degree. So if you are seeking to become a licensed practicing architect, this is the degree for you. Once you graduate, once you've earned the requisite amount of intern hours, you are eligible to sit for your licensure and actually become a licensed and practicing architect. So that's what we mean by a professional degree. Our second largest program is our industrial design program. This is a 4-year degree plan, 8 design studio sequence, and some are confused by the phrasing industrial design and wonder, what does that actually mean? An easier way to describe it might be product design. And our students work on designing everything as small as utensils, appliances, electronics, things you can hold in your hand, all the way up through things like furniture, vehicles. So it really does cover a very broad spectrum. And then our smallest major is interior architecture. This is also a 4-year degree plan. Interior architects cover a lot of the same ground as our Bachelor's of Architecture students. Interior architecture offers an opportunity to focus more on the lived-in size, the lived-in spaces, and have some really interesting opportunities working in things like historic districts, renovations, changing the interior of a space whilst maintaining the integrity of the exterior. And finally, environmental design. So this is a major that the first 3 years are very similar to the Bachelor's of Architecture. You'll cover the same content, but it is a great opportunity for students who would like to earn a design degree, but then potentially move on to a master's program without going through that 5th year. So if they intend to pursue licensure or simply pursue a master's in a different field, environmental design can be a great option. However, it's not an option that we offer to applicants. So environmental design would be a degree that you would switch into. So applicants will need to be applying to either architecture, industrial design, or interior architecture. My apologies, my PowerPoint doesn't seem to be, there we go. Sorry about that. All right, so moving on to some of the nitty-gritty logistics of admissions, which many of our prospective students and parents are interested in. So if you are interested in applying to the University of Houston to one of our majors, our priority application deadline is February 1st. And what does priority mean? Well, it's best explained in the context of rolling admissions cycle. So we will start reviewing applications in January. Some people like to submit early, and that's great. And we'll start admitting students come January, February. And then as we admit more and more students, we have fewer and fewer seats available. So if you have already been admitted, you're occupying a seat, which means there are fewer seats available for the next person. So that is what we mean by priority. So you can absolutely submit your application and your design portfolio, which I will get to in a minute, in March. You could submit it in April. You could even submit it in May or June. But it gets harder and harder to be admitted simply because we have fewer and fewer seats available. So it is good to be proactive and submit early. So if you are applying to University of Houston as a high school student or a transfer student, so if you're already at another college or university, you'll start with Apply Texas and you will submit the Common App. The next step, of course, would be to get accepted by the University of Houston. So acceptance to our college is actually a two-step process. So step one, get accepted to the university. And then step two, if you've been admitted to University of Houston, you'll be prompted to upload your creative works portfolio to an app called SlideRoom. And this is where we get to see you as a creative presence. And this is an important part of the application, certainly. So we encourage everyone to submit. If you are freshman, transfer, or a change of major, so looking to join one of our majors from a different major at UH, the portfolio is a very important piece of this process. And this is probably where we get the most questions from our prospective students. What should the portfolio look like? How big should it be? What kind of format should it take? Unfortunately, all of that information is on our website, but we'll also be reviewing a good deal of it here. All right, so yes, what is a portfolio? So a successful portfolio should include a statement of interest. So yes, you do have to write something. So we're interested in hearing briefly, this does not need to be more than a page, a brief description of why are you interested in our major? What is inspiring about it? What do you think you might want to do with it? And then of course, this is an opportunity for you to include the logistical necessities, such as your name, your student ID number, and you will have a student ID number at this point because you'll already have been admitted to the university. So don't worry about that step. And of course, your email address. And we do not want you to include your social security number by any means. Please do not share that. And then examples of your creative work. So this can take really any form that you're comfortable with and that you've done work and you're proud of it and you want to share it. So this can be two-dimensional. That's easy, obviously, if you've done drawing, sketching, painting, photography, architectural drawings. Those are pretty easy to transform into PDF. And we do ask that you submit this through SlideRoom in PDF format, so no bigger than 10 megabytes. If you do three-dimensional work, so for instance, if you've done something like costume design or sculpture, ceramics, that kind of thing, you're certainly welcome to get images of that, like high quality images, certainly, and then get those into PDF format and submit them as well. And 8 to 10 examples of your creative work is a good range to target. It is also a good idea, if you can, to cover more than one format. So if you can do more than just submit photographs, maybe submit sketches, paintings, and photographs. If you've done a little bit of at least two, maybe more, 3 or 4 would be great. But it's definitely good for us to see a little bit of a range and to see that you have enjoyed creating enough to pursue it in a couple of different formats. And if you are anxious about this, if you don't have a portfolio right now, you think you're interested in design, but you don't have anything that you've ever actually created, like drawn, sketched, painted, no photo, no, I haven't done any photography. Like if you've never actually created, now would be a great time to maybe take a winter mini course. A lot of community colleges in Texas will offer a mini semester in December. UH also offers a winter mini if you're already a UH student. So you could shop around and see if there's any foundational art courses out there. And you could squeeze in kind of an intensive in drawing, sketching, painting, photography, whatever it might be. So that would give you a full month of kind of intense I guess, development of your creative skills. And then you might have something to submit for a portfolio come January that you don't have now. If a winter mini isn't an option, you could also consider enrolling in a foundational art course in the spring semester, and then maybe just submitting your portfolio closer to like March, April, something along those lines. So if you are just not in a place where you have anything to submit, definitely think about maybe getting in some instruction in the next few months. And then yes, the portfolio PDF, which you'll be submitting to SlideRoom, cannot exceed 10 megabytes. All right. So if you want to learn more about our college, we do have a virtual information session, which we've recorded and it's up on our website. So I would definitely check that out. It's in the 30 to 40 minute range, so it's not going to take a huge part of your day. And it does dig into much deeper detail. We have a little more time. So Ashley Contos, who's my fellow undergraduate advisor, we dig into considerably more detail regarding admissions and degree plan, kind of the nuts and bolts of how to apply to the college, and then what do you actually have to do once you're in? How do you complete the degree? We also offer Q&A sessions with College of Architecture and Design students and advisors. So we just had one yesterday, actually. So these are offered via Zoom. And the next one we are offering is November 13th, so about 2 weeks from now. And this is an opportunity, especially if you've already watched that virtual information session, this is a good chance to ask kind of real life relevant questions, especially given the fact that we have our student ambassadors there. We are happy to offer their perspective. And I think many prospective students are more interested to hear what their fellow students have to say than the adults in the room. It's just more relevant oftentimes. So it's a great opportunity to get your specific questions answered, not only from an advisor's perspective, but also from a current student ambassador. And then we also do have a virtual tour. So something that the pandemic has really impacted us and everyone, of course, but we do have a really beautiful building on campus. It's a Philip Johnson design, and it is a wonderful space. Our students love to work there. The lighting is amazing. There's studios on 4 floors. It's just a really special place. So we are happy that we are able to offer a virtual tour. It's not the same as being on campus and walking through those doors and kind of experiencing that shared space, but it's certainly better than nothing. So we hope that you will check out that virtual tour as well. And then we do have another link on our website. So this is Discover More. And so this is great content for students who are maybe really intrigued by the thought of design and the concept of being an architect or being an industrial designer, but they don't know what it actually would look like or feel like. So in this Discover More section, we talk through, we offer a whole series of links, everything from Netflix series to YouTube videos to some articles. It's a fairly good range of different kinds of media, visual and written. And it's a good chance for students who think they might like design to get a little bit of a better sense of what it might mean to be a design student, and then to actually become a designer as well, and spend their career in that field. So click through those links. You probably won't have time to absorb all of them, but there are definitely some good learning opportunities there. All right, and then our our contact information is here as well. So if you are inclined to take a quick screenshot, write this down. This is how you're going to get a hold of us if you have specific questions. If you are not sure how to get to that website and you're having a hard time finding those links, those resources that we just clicked through, feel free to contact us. That Arch SSO is our office. That is our office email account. So if you send a message to that, it will get filtered through to the advisors and we'll be able to get you the information that you need. And definitely check us out on our Facebook and Instagram as well. We've definitely started a more active presence on social media, given the pandemic and the element of distancing that has taken place. We have tried to compensate with a bit more of a presence on social media and letting our people know virtually what's happening and what kind of content our students are actually producing. So that is just a very brief overview of our college and what we have to offer. Let's see, and I don't know if anyone has any questions. Let's see. All right. So I did have some great questions in a prospective student information session that I shared yesterday that I'd like to go back to and just touch base with a couple of those questions. A very popular question is actually about transfer credit. So we do have a lot of students who are coming to us from colleges and universities across the state of Texas. So the concern is, of course, if I've already earned credit, how can I apply that to this degree? And do I have to stay for 5 years? So that is a kind of a complicated, nuanced question. So if you have earned, let's say, your entire state of Texas core, so English, math, history, all the things, all 42 hours of core, we can probably apply all or most of that to your degree. So that's fantastic. So especially for a 160 credit hour degree, which is what you're looking at for that 5-year Bachelor's of Architecture, you can definitely knock out, you can come to us with 42 hours of that 160 already complete. So that's huge, right? That doesn't necessarily mean you will be spending less than 5 years in the college. However, it does mean that you could potentially shift to part-time, maybe in your 3rd year, and you could work part-time or do an internship within the industry, and then just be enrolled in your design courses. So your studio, your building technology, there is an opportunity for students to shift to part-time. And I've definitely seen a lot of students capitalize on that and get some really meaningful opportunities for work and internships within the industry as they finish up their 3rd, 4th, 5th year. The other question, we actually got several questions about this, was about summers. Is there opportunity to kind of accelerate your way through the program by taking studios or classes over the summer? The answer to this is that the future has yet to be revealed. As we all know, we're sort of in uncharted territory. But in the past, we have been fortunate enough to offer a study abroad opportunities, and those were over the summer and gave students a chance to complete a design studio and potentially graduate 6 months early. So rather than graduating in May, you'd be able to graduate potentially in the preceding December. So this is something that, when the pandemic is over and when things go back to more normal, we would like to be able to offer that again. And I hope we will. So stay tuned. And then in the past, we have also offered some Houston-based studios and electives, architectural electives as well, over the summers. So for those of you wondering about summers, I would encourage you to stay tuned. We have also offered a summer intensive, which offers transfers and change of majors a chance to kind of speed through 1st year design in one summer, and then start 2nd year in that kind of first fall that they're a part of our college. And that is something that has been very well received and certainly does help for students who have already spent a year or two in college, either at a transfer institution or here at UH. So definitely know that we are aware of the sense of urgency, and that summers are definitely something that we in the past have used to assist students with degree completion. I'm excited to see what the college is going to be offering in the future. So stay tuned with that as well. I am going to go ahead and introduce our two student ambassadors who we have with us today. So we have Usna Ghaffar, who is a industrial design student, and then Ari Flick, who is an architecture student. So Usna and Ari, if you wouldn't mind just saying hi real quick, and maybe telling our prospective audience a little bit about what has made your experience with the College of Architecture so special, and maybe any wisdom you'd like to share with our perspectives.
Okay, I can go first. Okay, hi, my name is Usna, and I'm currently a senior in the industrial design program. So yeah, definitely industrial design, making this my major has been especially special to me because I actually changed my major in my second year of college, because I was first starting out with industrial engineering, but I was always interested in design and art in high school and throughout since I was young, but I just didn't know that a major like this existed. And it's so interesting how it's not known as widely. Industrial designers are sometimes referred to like inventors or something, but you don't necessarily have to invent a brand new thing to be a product industrial designer. And two terms are used sometimes, industrial designers or product designers. The term industrial design is just used to communicate that you can literally be making anything from, as Anne said, as small as utensils to as large as going to car design and stuff like that, which we have. Like an example is our first projects when we're freshmen start from as small as making like a planter or something like that, to right now our senior project, we had to design a scooter / small vehicle. So obviously we are not building this semester. And when things are larger scales, we also tend to do smaller. But that's one thing in the hands-on in the future, which I hope y'all, if you guys do enter the program, get to experience, is the hands-on makes it much more special too, because you're part of the design of things from the first stage where you think of ideas, sketch, do research about customers and what people want, where innovation needs to be done, all the way to building it and testing your products. And then you can also do, if you can't make things, you can still make them digitally. That's another thing y'all would learn, is how to make digital models, which is what we've really relied on during the pandemic, is really pushing the digital models and at least getting that aspect of it. Some of the sophomores are still making things from home to the best of their ability, so I definitely commend them for that with whatever tools and materials they have. But yeah, those are some of the greatest things about industrial design.
Awesome, thank you, Usna. Ari, you want to say a few words?
So yeah, I'm Ari. Happy Halloween. So I'm in my final year, so my 5th year of the architecture program. I kind of came to UH, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I always knew I wanted to do architecture, but then I came in and didn't realize that there are so many aspects of that as well. I will say the college does a really great job. The first semester that you are in the college, it's just kind of like a general design semester. So if you're kind of not sure where you want to go and you don't want to be like, oh my gosh, it could be a 5-year program or a 4-year program, and you don't want to just randomly pick, you don't have to your first semester. And there's presentations on industrial design and interior architecture. And all those things to kind of help you make that decision and feel confident moving forward. So it's definitely not something you have to like shoot and run with. The architecture program is pretty amazing. It's a pretty small college. We say like the College of Architecture and Design is kind of like its own tiny university on UH's campus. So I came from a super small school, like there were 400 of us in my high school, like in total. So it was kind of funny coming into college. I was thinking it was going to be this like huge shock, but it really is a pretty small college. Everybody knows each other. somewhat, at least. Everyone's really supportive. So I really love that. And yeah, it's been great overall. The portfolios, I know a lot of people have questions on portfolios, and just like kind of like preemptively, if any of y'all have those questions, there is a website called issuu.com, issuu.com. You can sign up for like a little free trial. A lot of our architecture students, industrial design students, will upload their portfolios there for looking for jobs and things like that. But if you're not sure how to structure something, or structure a portfolio, or how to put those things together, it's a really good resource. Obviously, these are people that have gone through a degree, so like you don't have to have plan sections and things like that. But as far as formatting, I usually like point people there on if you're really not sure like where to get started. Those are some pretty good precedents. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Ari, and thank you, Asna. I definitely appreciate that. So more questions that are very common of coming in from prospective students and prospective parents have to do with careers and industry, and what kind of jobs what kind of job could I do if I get this, if I do this, if I spend 5 years on this degree, like what are my options? And so I would definitely encourage you to watch our virtual info session. And there's a great screen on there where you can actually do a screen grab, and it shows you that there is an incredible range of professional opportunities for students with the skills that our students are gaining. And Asta mentioned how the college has taken everything, not everything, but many things digital in this current environment. So by necessity, we are all distanced. And so even our first year students are actually learning right off the bat. They're hitting the ground running, and they are learning how to design with Rhino and Adobe, and this is content that our students really did not used to get to quite so quickly. So they're mastering this in the first semester. And what's exciting about that is a lot of those skills are highly marketable right off the bat. So even well before you have your design degree, you could potentially be using your design skills to either work part-time, maybe freelance. There's a lot of opportunity and a lot of demand for students who are not only tech savvy, but actually have that design background as well. So I'm excited for the fact that our student body is now kind of taking a different approach. I do anticipate that once we go back to in-person learning, there will continue to be a reliance on the more traditional kind of studio model making, that kind of thing. But I would not at all be surprised if our students actually end up more skilled in the digital aspects, simply because they're starting sooner, and that may end up leading them in different directions. So if you have the opportunity to watch that that virtual information session, I hope you will. And also something that is relevant to the discussion about careers is our relationship with University Career Services. So both the student ambassadors mentioned how the college is quite small, so that's worth mentioning. So in that first slide, we saw less than 1,000 students in our college, which in the context of University of Houston makes us very small, very small indeed. So if you're thinking about a huge university and then a small college, there's actually a lot of win-wins in that scenario, because you get to know your studio mates fairly well. It's a small group, so first year students will start off in groups of 20 or less, approximately, for their studios, and then studios get smaller as you go on through the program. Usually 20 is about as many as you'll have. And even in the pandemic, even in remote learning setup, we are happy to report that our first semester students are almost all feeling fairly well connected. So my fellow advisors and I have concerns about students feeling isolated. That's a very real concern, especially if a student is maybe living in dorms or living in an apartment by themselves, and not having a chance to interact with anybody. If they're just in a whole lot of big lecture classes, there's not a really great opportunity for that student to connect with other human beings, and that's a problem. But fortunately, we meet with all of our first semester students in their first term to check in, ask, how are you doing? Is this feeling the right major? Like, are you loving it? Are you struggling? So Ashley and I connect with each student individually throughout their first term. And I'm very happy to report that our first semester students are pretty much universally feeling like they have a home at UH, which is really special. I have met with several prospective students who have reported feeling fairly isolated because their current major that they're in at UH, the courses they're taking are just big lecture courses and they don't offer much of an interactive component. So even though our students are doing it remotely through GroupMe and through Microsoft Teams and through Zoom, even our first year students who don't have kind of an established identity here in the college are feeling like they are forging an identity and they are forging a group that they feel like they belong to. And that is something that I am very proud of. And I really hope we can continue to foster as the spring, will likely be much the same. So hopefully as we move forward, our first years and our older students as well will continue to be able to maximize this remote opportunity. So I totally got off track there, but what I was talking about was how great it is to have a small college and a large university. So the large university component is where career services comes in. So we have a fantastic career services office. Back in the before times when we were on campus, I would tell students they had to walk all the way to the other side of campus to get to University Career Services because of all the way over by Moody Towers. But in the current digital age that we are living in, the virtual world, all that a student has to do is schedule a virtual advising appointment in something called Cougar Pathway, which is the software that University Career Services uses to connect with our students. So if a student has a question about a resume or about maybe just kind of like a vocational assessment, maybe they're not sure, like I mentioned, like they're just like, I think I want to do design, but I'm not sure what job I can actually do. If they're kind of questioning or they're anxious, or on the flip side, if they are ready to graduate and they're ready to get a job in design, our University Career Services counselor can do a fantastic job. Everything from vocational assessments and building your first resume, all the way through to applying, interviewing, navigating career fair, navigating virtual career fair, because that's coming too. These are all things that are sort of an incredible asset that the university can offer, that if we were just a small private college, like it would be tough to get that kind of support. So our University Career Services counselor, Lauren Herman, actually works with us and I think just 2 other colleges on campus. And she's worked with our students for 4 to 5 years now. So she has developed a really strong sense of what's going on in the industry as the industry has been shifting and responding to the pandemic, to the other kind of economic factors that are in play right now. She is a great resource for our students, and especially as anxiety can definitely manifest around this topic, like there's no doubt about it. So it's wonderful to have access to a professional whose job it is to work with students and get them cued into what's going on and how can they best position themselves to be successful in this new world that we are all living in. So that is kind of the win-win of the small college and then the big university. So yeah, definitely understandable if you are a parent or maybe a prospective student and you're not quite sure about the career aspect. Just know that you will have support in that aspect as you navigate throughout your time here. And we do some kind of specific touches when we do our advising. We recommend that students touch base with Lauren at some point in first year and then again in third year. So we do our best as advisors to make sure that our students are not only aware that these resources are available, but that they also feel comfortable accessing them and they kind of know how to go prepared so that they can get the most out of this experience. All right, so we have about 10 minutes left. additional questions that are fairly common, again, for prospective students. And again, if you think of a question, if you're watching and you can't think of anything now and you think of it later, feel free to contact us using that ArchSSO email. We are happy to respond. We love talking to prospectives because we love our college. So, but in the interim, another sort of common area of concern has to do with sorry, I just lost my train of thought. It has to do with the way that the content is actually being delivered. So that's, I'm not putting this very clearly, but what makes design school different? Because design school, I think prospectives know that design school is different. Like, it's not the same as going to college to be an architecture, or sorry, to be an economics major, or to be a history major, or like a sports science major. Like, students who are thinking about design school, they already know that design school is different. So I'm going to lean on my my ambassadors again to give us a little bit of their perspective on what is it that makes design school different. And maybe if you had a perception of what that was going to be before you arrived, and then if that was sort of, if that perception was proved true, or was it actually very different? So Ari, do you want to go ahead and start with that?
Yeah. So I will say I was not expecting what design school is going to be like. I guess like whenever you're younger, you always think about like architects as like, you know, doing a lot of math and like, you know, there's like calculators everywhere, I guess was my presumption of what architecture school is going to be like. And then coming in the first day, there was like a ton of scissors and construction paper, and everybody had Elmer's glue all over their desk. And I definitely felt way out of my element. Now it's all online, so a bit different. I will say it's a big adjustment on how you're learning and what you're learning. They're asking you to be a lot more critical of what you see around you. And I think the biggest thing is design. There is no correct answer. So people that are really driven by like, you know, if you've always gotten 100s and you've always like, oh, I ace tests, I do great, like I can I can memorize information, I can solve problems. I mean, that's all very helpful, but you're about to get a big shock. No professor is going to tell you like, oh, this is awful, like you're trash, we can't do this. But the critiques will always sound a lot harsher because it's not a math problem. This is something you've poured your like heart and soul and many hours into. So I would say like that's probably the biggest adjustment is whenever you're doing a project and you're not getting the same critiques, or you don't feel like you're getting the same grades or feedback. A lot of students will feel like they're like failing and they're not getting this, and design school is not for them. And it's actually completely the opposite. Your professors are there to push you and to point out things that they notice, just so A, you can become more confident in the design decisions you're making, but also B, so they can help push you to looking at things in a different way, because I guarantee you have not looked at the way they look at things. We've not learned in school. So I would say that that was the biggest adjustment on my part on the architecture side. I know industrial design is a whole other beast to master, so I'll leave that to Snap.
Yeah, so I remember when I changed majors and I actually managed, so studio always starts in the fall, so I did have to wait a bit before starting studio. But in the meanwhile, I had taken like the intro main class, which talks about all the ID, interior architecture and everything. So that opened my eyes to like all the different types of products industrial designers do and the process they go through. And the other class I took was a sketching class, and that sketching class also opened my eyes in a way I thought, but it was strange for me. My order was slightly different than other people, but it ended up helping me. But the point is, a lot of people go into ID thinking, oh, we're just gonna sketch, brainstorm ideas and draw things and think of products, and that's it. But as you progress through the years, there's so much research that goes into each project you're gonna work on. So there's a research phase, finding your audience phase. So who the product is for, what do they need, what do they want? So it gets really hands-on. Like we've had to interview people, and then we make mock-up like study models. and test them with people. And so it's like a very structured process that gives you that end design final product, which that is, I think, a thing people don't realize going early on. And that was for me the learning curve, because it's scary in the beginning, because going in when I was like, oh, I can do this, I love sketching, but then I had to learn, no, I have to do research, and I have to like have a strong, you do build a lot of skills. So I think that happened. Some people are nervous about building their social skills, but that also happens. So you almost like develop as a person too, and talking to people, researching, and hands-on. Again, I think Ariana mentioned there. Then you learn, if you've been afraid, like if you were never a hands-on type design person, you learn to be that too. And the digital skill, the digital classes at UH, the design are so amazing. Like both the architecture and the industrial design professor for that, it's just really amazing, which we're known to be one of the schools that has better digital modeling skills. And yeah, so that was my learning curve, the process and coming out. I think that was the first. I think that was both questions. I don't remember the second part.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Good. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. And something else that can sometimes come up as a concern for prospective students is, with the location in Houston, do we have connections with other firms? Do we have alumni connections? Like how do our students kind of network their way into their future? And this is something that has been really exciting to watch, actually. So I've been at the college for 2 years, and I've observed how our alumni relations have really stepped up, and our marketing has taken a big step forward as well. So the staff at the college is working actively to work with alumni, get current undergraduates actually exposed to alumni, and potentially getting the alumni in to assist with workshops and networking events, career fair, that kind of thing, so that we can take advantage of the fact that a lot of our alums actually do graduate and stay in the Houston area, and they are working at firms here in the city. So that is something that is actively a priority, and it's definitely been exciting to see how our alumni relations people have actually worked not only the human element, but also this co-ed connection, which is like kind of like a LinkedIn type of software that helps our College of Architecture and Design undergraduates and alumni actually network professionally as well. So we are definitely pursuing both the human element of getting our students opportunities after graduation, and then also leveraging technology to the best of our ability as well. So that is certainly something that the college is prioritizing, and I think our students will continue to see the benefits in the coming years. And I know that can seem like a long way away if you're a prospective first year currently in high school, but I have no doubt that mom and dad are probably thinking about that already. So as that is just about our time, I will go ahead and wrap us up. Thank you, Usna. Thank you, Ari. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you to our UH admissions and IT support who are making this possible. And once again, if you have questions, if you're excited about our programs, please contact us. We are excited to hear from you.